It is finally here, folks, the follow-up to one of the greatest television shows of all time. If you've just finished watching El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie, then you might be wondering what comes next. We'll go over the ending, and in case you didn't figure it out on your own, there will absolutely be spoilers for El Camino. So proceed at your own risk. But if you're ready to throw caution to the wind, let's take a deeper dive into the story of Jesse Pinkman and how it all ended up.
Nothing happens until I hear you say it.
Despite being a shiny new movie, the ending of El Camino somehow seemed incredibly familiar. No, not just because our beloved Jesse Pinkman took off to somewhere cold, which gives us serious Dexter finale vibes. Sorry, we know it was kind of an insult to El Camino to talk about it in the same sentence as the last season of Dexter. No, what we really want to compare it to is the Breaking Bad finale, Felina. One of the highest rated things on all of IMDb. After Jesse was freed, he drove away in Todd's, wait for it, El Camino. Hey, that's the name of this movie. We all remember how we felt seeing poor, scarred Jesse driving away to, well, that's the question El Camino kind of answered. But let's take a look at what series creator Vince Gilligan had in mind. The ending he wrote for the show was purposefully open-ended, describing Jesse's escape as grimly determined, fearing nothing, he speeds through the darkness. From here on, it's up to us to say where he's headed. I like to call it something better, and leave it at that. And what do you know, that's pretty much how Jesse ends up at the end of El Camino as well, albeit much less filthy and wearing a fetching white sweater. Bringing back deceased characters can be risky. Of course, we all want to see folks like Mike and Walt again, but involve them too much and you have a Lori on The Walking Dead situation where the audience wants them to just go away. But El Camino includes a tasteful flashback to a talk between Jesse and Mike where Mike drops some sage advice in that deadpan way that he always does.
If I were your age, starting fresh, Alaska.
Mike's last piece of grandfatherly wisdom is that you can't put things right, but you can always start over.
Simple as that.
Of course, we probably don't need to highlight the fact that Jesse ends up exactly where Mike said he would want to go if he had the chance, Alaska. Jesse is able to make a deal with Ed, the man who makes problems and people disappear and is responsible for the fact that Ace Attorney Saul Goodman now works at a Cinnabon on Better Call Saul. But getting his new start isn't easy, and it involves Jesse being pushed to his absolute limits. One of the most iconic Jesse Pinkman moments from Breaking Bad is the beginning of the episode Peekaboo. It involves Jesse picking up a bug, letting it crawl over his hand, and then continue on undisturbed. Well, that is until Skinny Pete comes along and crushes it. Over the course of the show, Jesse has shown kindness to many helpless people even when it's not in his best interest. He has also avoided taking lives whenever possible, and the only reason he took out Gale was to save Walter. When Jesse needs to get the last $1,800 to pay off Ed and start again, he again lets a harmless insect crawl on his hand. When he confronts potentially dangerous people, he only wants enough money to be able to disappear, and he doesn't want to hurt anyone. Even after being pushed to his absolute physical, mental, and emotional limits, Jesse still doesn't want to hurt people. Of course, they couldn't just give him the cash and wish him the best. That would just be too easy. So Jesse does what he has to do in order to save his own life, but nothing more, letting the people who surrender go even though they could possibly identify him to the police. This felt very reminiscent of the finale of Breaking Bad, where Walter wants Jesse to end his life, and Jesse refuses. Walt was a vicious, malicious, cruel man, and Jesse didn't want to become like him. Perhaps the happiest part of Jesse's story is that even when pushed to the brink, he couldn't justify hurting innocent people. He really never did become Walter White, even after everything that he went through. And speaking of Walter White, come on, we all knew he was going to show up again at one point, but they kept us waiting until the very end. The scene was from way back when they were cooking out of the old RV and featured Walt talking to Jesse about his career goals. Walt knew his disease would claim him, but emphasized that Jesse had his whole life ahead of him. He encouraged Jesse to go to college and perhaps get a quite versatile degree in business. While that might seem nice at first, he blatantly ignored the fact that Jesse already had his high school diploma and wasn't interested in business.
What interests you?
Sports medicine,
While this was yet another example of Walt not really seeing Jesse for who he is and trying to make him into someone else, it's also a reminder of how powerful it is to have your whole life ahead of you. Just to drive home the point even further, Jesse has another vision of his ex-girlfriend Jane. They discuss the idea of going where the universe takes you, and Jane says it's better to decide where you're going on your own. But Jesse likes the idea of going where the universe takes you, and it's not hard to see why. Earlier in the movie, Jesse calls his parents in a ruse to get them out of the house so he can break in, but he's sincere when he tells his parents that they didn't fail him, that all of his mistakes have been his own,
But you did your best.
and that he is where he is today because of his own choices. With that in mind, it's not surprising that he likes the idea of going where the universe sends him. Can it really be that much worse than where he got himself? There's no denying Jesse has been through some seriously traumatic events. He's scarred on the inside and out. But Mike once told him that even though he's a criminal, he can still be a good person or a bad person, and the choice is his. It's clear by his actions during El Camino that Jesse is still choosing to be a good person, no matter what the universe throws at him. Now that we've broken it down a little bit, tell us what you thought about the ending of El Camino. Does it match up to what you thought happened after Breaking Bad ended, or did it totally destroy your headcanon? Let us know what you think in the comment section below, and don't forget to click on the subscribe button for more awesome videos from us here at ScreenRant. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.